In this video, I'm going to talk about where pain sits in your mind and how you can access it. Hi, my name is Drew Coverdale, physiotherapist and author of The Pain Habit. I talk about all things pain and help patients understand and change their experience of persistent pain. Welcome to The Pain Habit, Pain Bites YouTube channel. If you're new here, then click on the subscribe button to keep up to date with the latest information on pain, helping patients to change and let go of their persistent pain. In this video today, I'm going to look at where pain sits in your mind and emphasize the importance of understanding this so you can know where to look and how to access that when you want to reverse the problem of persistent pain. So let's get started. The part of the brain where pain sits is the unconscious part of your mind. Pain is something that's triggered by unconscious mechanisms as a protective measure. It's to provide feedback so that we become consciously aware of a sensation and that we can attend to it. Our system, our 50 trillion cell system, is doing its best to keep us alive and make us aware of anything that it thinks could be threatening to our survival. It has to warn us when something within us or something approaching that system could be dangerous to it. It being you. So it protects you by monitoring all of the bodily systems within you and all the experiences that you encounter. It has the ability to monitor all these internal systems and the external environment at the same time. And it does it based on what it understands about those environments. All this goes on whether we pay attention to the things within us or around us or we don't. It's monitoring it whether we're paying attention or we're not. The more we pay attention, then the better we get at picking up on the things that could be potentially harmful to us. The more finely tuned that system becomes at picking up the real things that are a threat and then becoming okay with the things that actually we understand are not a threat. If we are practically ignorant of those warnings or we override any that we do pick up on, then we risk our system giving us a more alarming warning of that threat as time goes on. Pain is part of that unconscious warning system, and it's driven by the unconscious protective mechanisms of the organism that we call ourself. So if we agree it's an unconscious mechanism, then why don't we consider this more when we design or deliver treatment programs for patients who are suffering from persistent pain? The conscious mind is the window to access those unconscious systems. It's the guardian on the gate. And what I mean by that is that it gives understanding to what is being experienced. It gives meaning to it. So you have to consciously understand what you're experiencing. The trouble is that so many times we give the conscious mind the wrong information. And if that's the guardian that gives meaning to the unconscious mind, it's passing on the wrong information. It filters that information and passes it through to its unconscious counterpart. And that has the ability to trigger pain. If it receives the wrong information, it means that pain is more likely to persist than desist. Many of the treatment options available have been designed and delivered focusing on a physical element only, causing persistent pain, and then doing something physical to fix or change that problem or damage. If the initial assumption that persistent pain is due to damage or some form of structural change of one form or another according to a medical practitioner, then it is basically potentially the start of a wild goose chase. That physical abnormality or anomaly that's been detected, identified or diagnosed may have relevance and should be respected because it actually could be an entry point into reversing the dysfunctional persistent pain that's developed. But if the conscious focus of the practitioner and the patient is on fixing something that's broken, changing something structural, or being concerned about on the identification of a physical problem, then the conscious mind of that individual filters that information through to their own unconscious mind based on what they understand about what they're being told. Now, in some people, that could be some really scary thoughts, feelings, and emotions. If the pain that the patient's experiencing has actually come about because of excessive stress in that person's life, physical stress, emotional, psychological stress, then the medical process can and often does worsen their situation. A failed treatment or intervention, poor communication, misunderstanding of the terminology, worrying implications of what the person's told or experiences can all contribute to the ongoing negative emotions which are actually driving the patient's pain. Often it's a stressful event that's a precursor of the onset of that person's persistent pain. That may be a cumulative level of stress that the person actually could have enjoyed because they might thrive on that stressful feeling that gives them success in their life, and they might even describe that as normal. It feels normal to them to function at that level. Or it could possibly be a physical or emotional traumatic event that's easy to recognise, and that might result in the person experiencing ongoing physical pain long after any tissue damage is actually healed, if there had been any at all. Quite often there is something in the makeup of the person who enters the point of something that becomes painful. That determines whether that pain will become persistent or not. Not the event, not the physical thing that happened, not the emotional thing that happened, but the person entering that moment. What it was about them, what was particular about their situation in their life at the point at which they experienced that next trigger that can be the determining factor as to whether they develop persistent pain. That will determine how they will process what is happening to them, how they interpret and understand the feelings they experience. If their conscious filter of that information is repeatedly worried thoughts, feelings and emotions, then that is the core message that their unconscious system receives for all of that relevant stimulus in that moment. So despite a particular treatment approach targeting that area of physical pain, it's destined to failure. It's destined to failure in most cases of persistent pain because of the scene in which it's set. The practitioner doesn't see the scene themselves. They're not expecting their treatment to fail. Maybe they haven't been trained to see the bigger picture. Sometimes they haven't had time to look for it or time to listen for it. So unfortunately, the output of the unconscious system is one of ongoing pain after the treatment's finished, totally unaffected by what was attempted. It may drop a little bit as a clue that the patient attending to themselves is part of the answer to resolving the pain. That experience of receiving care or being listened to on some level. But any improvements that come from targeting the physical location of pain are usually short-lived when it comes to persistent pain. There's a finite number of times before the medical community rub, inject, cut out, prod, align, manipulate before they and the patient give up on it. There's some excuse made for the patient not responding to those treatments. There shouldn't be any blame apportioned, but it just hasn't worked in their case. Sometimes blame is apportioned, unfortunately, but generally it's nothing that the practitioner accepts any responsibility for. They may not blame the patient directly for those failings of treatment, and many are totally compassionate, feel sorry that it hasn't benefited their patient, but ultimately they may not quite understand why a treatment that has been effective in some people hasn't been effective for that one. The result for the patient is basically to say that all that can be done has been done. The damage is such that they have to live with the pain from that, or that the reason for the ongoing pain is unknown and that they'll have to live with that situation as best they can. The only medical option might be to use some sort of pharmacological or alternative drug therapy to block those unconscious protective signals known as pain, and in this case known as persistent pain. If we could just understand that the conscious mind is a window to the unconscious system, but it has to be approached extremely carefully to make sure that the filtered information passed through to that person's unconscious mind is correct and is delivered correctly with the right words, the right images, the right descriptions, the right understanding. And unfortunately, a lot of the times it isn't done like that. Misunderstanding the meaning of the pain is often the first error of the patient and the person treating them. If we can get past that, which is no mean feat in the first place, then we can really start to feed the right information through the conscious mind to retrain its unconscious counterpart where the pain originates. New thoughts, new breathing patterns, new movements, and only then will we consistently start to receive the associated feelings coming back from that unconscious system that are aligned to recovery and reducing pain. The cycle can be broken, and it has been in many. Pain is an unconscious protective mechanism that can be accessed and influenced through targeted conscious thought, breathing and movement. Understanding how to generate this input as a treatment philosophy provides a clear opportunity for removing persistent pain. Using principles of neuroscience and behaviour change, it's possible to do it. The pain habit guides you on that journey. It helps you understand the truth behind your pain, and it shows you the path to your recovery. My name's Drew Coverdale. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Now take a little time out for yourself and plan the next step in your recovery.